Namaste, beautiful yogis. Today we're doing a diet diet related video. I'll try to give you my tips on how to do a raw or high raw vegan diet in non-stressful, easy way, how to make it pleasant, and just general tips. But I'll start with questions first, and I'll split the videos into a few different videos so that they're normal length. Let's start with Shelby. Maybe you could I lost the question. Maybe you could comment on the rest of your household doesn't want to follow your diet. I think that's a common challenge that people experience. I think you have to make a very strong decision for yourself, and absolutely you should not expect anybody to jump on board with you. That usually leads to a lot of pressure. You don't want to make anybody feel like you're putting pressure on them to do whatever you feel inspired to do. I find it that if you do something with inspiration and if you're consistent with what you're doing, you have better chance of making some people follow your example, especially if you're successful at it and long-term successful at it. It's taken me many years to kind of get my parents a little bit on board. They are not completely on board, but they fully understand where I'm coming from and that what I'm doing is an optimal way of doing it. It's just that not everybody is there, and some people don't have, I don't know if it is willpower or it's some other factors, but some people just don't have it in them to completely follow you. So don't put pressure on anybody to do anything they don't want to do. Leave everybody around you or allow everybody around you in your circle to feel free. It's not always easy. It's easier said than done, but that's my advice. Just give people freedom. I actually never ever told my brother that he needs to go vegan, needs to go vegetarian, I never made a comment to him. As when he was a little kid, I ate my food and he ate his food, and then I moved away, but when I visit, he would see how I eat. I never made a comment. He made his own decision to become vegetarian and later on vegan, and he totally agrees that there is total benefits to both. Especially he sees the vegan benefits on your athletic performance and so forth, because he's just as athletic as I am. So the only times I have been successful is when I have just been an example and people choose it for themselves. It doesn't work when you want to kind of make other people want to be healthy, because people want to choose that for themselves, I think. So just do your thing. Be very solidified within yourself as to what you want in your life. If you have strong beliefs for yourself, that will just power you forward. That's, to me, has been the most effective thing. I have never eaten the same foods with the people I live with, my partner, my parents. I've always eaten a little different, even if my partner is mostly vegan, vegetarian but vegan. We still eat different foods. He would prefer more pasta and sandwiches with some of the new cool cheese products on the market or stuff like this. And I love to prepare stuff for him, but definitely he's not going to sit down with me and eat a whole papaya. Maybe he'll take a few bites from my papaya, but we're not going to sit and eat 2 papayas together. So basically, that's my advice. Just do your thing and do it with passion. PCOS, obviously, all the advice that I will give is from my personal experience and beliefs. Don't take my word for it. Do your research, and the only way you can understand a lifestyle or a healing journey is by you experiencing it for yourself. For PCOS, I would go on a detox, and I would do for quite a while up until it clears up. I used to have a lot of issues with my periods and my reproductive system, probably cysts and such. I had very painful periods, very not regular periods with pain and so forth. And the one thing that helped me, because I was vegetarian for a long time and I still had issues, was dropping dairy and going to whole plant foods. Now doing a detox just speeds up that healing process, and I believe they will shrink once we remove, especially dairy. I know that gluten is not good for them if you're gluten sensitive, and it's, in general it's a processed food. So removing dairy and just flooding your diet with fresh whole plant foods is your best bet. But you have to stick with it, because generally, if you're very healthy and you switch from a normal standard American diet to a vegan diet, you can switch to a non-perfect vegan diet and you can feel good. Once we have something to heal, we kind of have to be a little more hardcore for a while up until the body is strong. How do you maintain a heavy yoga session on a vegetarian diet without feeling lethargic? On the contrary, I think that's what making me super energetic, feeling light and energized and powered by plant foods without feeling weighed down, bogged down by heavy meats or dairy or something like this, is the best way to feel energetic. Now, there is ways to make the diet good and healthy, and there is obviously a junky way to eat a vegan diet. The things I have discovered is, first of all, give it time. Transition takes time. There's sometimes detox symptoms for some people that are serious. Give it time. Be patient. Have your eye on the long-term goal. And you will get there. Your digestion will adjust to your new diet. So once you adjust to your new diet, your bacterial flora will change to support your new diet. So you're not going to feel bloated. On the contrary, you'll feel flat tummy, high energy. Now, to have high energy, you have to get enough calories, water, enough grains. Grains will provide you with a lot of minerals and nutrients, and the so much discussed iron, obviously magnesium to relax your body at night. Fiber, alkalinity, they also tend to sanitize your system, and so that you can grow good bacterial flora in your body and kind of not have the bad bacteria or overgrowth of candida or certain other things. So a lot of grains. But when I say a lot of grains, I do mean a lot of grains. I don't mean like the standard salad that you get at the store and it's like 2-3 ounces, but it looks big because the leaves are fluffy. I mean a lot of grains. Pack them in your salads. Make huge salads, pack them maybe in a smoothies. Sometimes I like to eat just kind of like a bunch of spinach with bananas or something like this. I like to eat my grains with fruit sometimes. I used to love iceberg lettuce with bananas, or I used to love to make. I still love to make a dip from some vegetables, and say tofu and some other ingredients, spices and hemp seeds and such things, and I create a dip that's very delicious, and you can either use it as a salad dressing or a dip for your vegetables. Basically, if you get enough calories and enough grains and nutrients in your diet, you are going to feel very energetic. Maybe when you say lethargic, you mean some people maybe have low iron and they just feel tired. So I address that. A lot of grains. If you are not into, if you live in a colder climate, If you're postmenopausal, lactating and so forth, you will need a little more fat, and you can add a little more protein, more cooked foods. Sorry for speed talking. I'm trying to get through the questions. You can add beans. They have good amount of iron. Lentils have good amount of iron. Go on chronometer.com. It's CRO and so forth, chronometer, not CH. So it's CR, chronometer.com. It's a free app, and you can punch in your foods for a while so that you get a visual of where your nutrients are at, how much iron you're getting, how much folic acid, how much calcium, zinc, supplement with B12. That's the consensus, and you're covered. You're covered. As long as you eat whole plant foods and a varied diet, you will be covered. Now, the transitional stage is a whole nother story, because it is a taste buds thing. When you're used to eat a certain way, it takes a while for you to just start appreciating the flavor of different things, the taste of different things. So it takes a while, but it is all worth it if you make yourself appreciate a steamed sweet potato over a very highly processed lasagna that you're used to. You're doing your body a favor. In the beginning, maybe the satisfaction factor is not the same, but once you detox the addiction, or detox your body so you don't have the addiction to all the chemicals, all the fats, all the oils, all the added stuff into your diet, you'll be glad you did, because you will get exactly the same satisfaction from your diet, but eating healthy things. Because ultimately we basically enjoy good food, but if our taste buds are adulterated with through years of eating just fried food and junk food and so forth, we just lose the capacity to appreciate the amazingness of just a little more plain whole food. Once you detox, you're gonna have exactly the same satisfaction in your meals. I'm a foodie. I love food. I think I get more satisfaction from my food, as simple and maybe unexciting it may seem to some people, but I think I get more satisfaction than most people get from a burger, their favorite burger with French fries, because I experience so much flavor, and I enjoy the textures and the taste and everything in food. So I feel that you're not gonna lose out on anything, but there is a transitional stage in which, yeah, it may feel for a while that you're just eating bland, plain, non-fried foods or something like that. You will get there. From Holly, so excited for this video. Could you explain how to combine some foods? For example, things like oatmeal with fruit in it, coconut yogurt and nuts, chocolate and fruits, nuts and fruit. Are those beneficial combinations? Thank you, Ali. That's an amazing, great question. Now, always understand that simplicity is your best bet. The healthiest thing you can do is be simple. Don't overcomplicate things. Don't think how you should combine things. Always think how to simplify things. Now, if you're having a big meal, the more simple you keep it, the better. Vegetables with some beans or with some nut-based dressing will digest perfectly fine with spices, some lemon and so forth. Now with this combination, fruit and nuts is a pretty bad combination because fruit in general is very low in fat, and that's how nature intended it to be. Fruit digests very easily, very quickly. It detoxes your body really efficiently. So when you combine it with nuts or other things, breads and stuff, you just make the fruit sit a little too long in your body, and where it starts to ferment, and it can create a lot of digestive issues. Plus, not to forget that fruit and nuts will give you blood sugar issues. It depends on your body. If you're pretty healthy, you may not feel blood sugar issues, but if you're having big meals or consistent meals of fruit and nuts, especially like equal amounts, it will cause blood sugar issues. Just fruit on its own, on a clean body, will not cause blood sugar issues. By clean body, I mean body that has been detoxed for a while off of a high-fat diet, because we do store fat in our bloodstream, in our arteries, and so forth. So if you're on a standard American diet, that's about 35% fat, maybe 40 sometimes. When you switch over to just a more higher carb diet, at first you will experience some blood sugar issues because you're still having fat in your bloodstream, fats in your bloodstream. Once you clean up the fat in your bloodstream, you can have a date meal of 10 days, of 20 days, and you're not gonna have blood sugar issues. You are just going to get the energy from it. Now, that being said, I don't want to make it dogmatic and you can combine anything. In small quantities, you can combine the most uncombinable foods and you'll be okay. If you have a little bar of dried nuts and fruit, you're fine. You'll be fine. A clean, effective body, like after a while of healing or transitioning, once you're feeling healthy, on a healthy body with strong digestion, a small bad combination, a small meal of poorly combined foods will combine just fine, just because the size of the meal. And also if you're hydrated and so forth. Just don't make it a habit, or don't feel that you need to combine things in order to make them healthy. Combining things generally makes them less healthy. You're better off having your fruit by itself or fruit with other fruits. If I have really high quality fruit, like amazing grapes, I want to eat them by themselves, watermelon by itself. But say I'm not getting amazing fruit, I'm getting okay apples or pears that are not super exciting, then I want to make a dip for them so that they're more exciting, more interesting. So we'll make a dip of persimmon almond milk, which is kind of low fat, cinnamon or cocoa powder, and that way I will slice the apples and maybe even dip based on mulberries. They taste like caramel, and that way you're kind of combining fruit with fruit, so it's still high carb, it's gonna digest perfectly well, and you're just gonna feel pretty light and awesome just a few hours later after a big ass fruit meal with a lot of nutrients and vitamins and water rich fruits. Now the other combinations, chocolate and fruit, again same thing, in small quantities it is okay. Just I eat a lot of fruit because you kind of have to. If you're eating a plant-based diet, your entire day is fruit, or if you're somewhere cold, oats, fruit, sweet potatoes and stuff, and then the dinner is a little more complex, something more done up with vegetables and maybe cooked or raw. But in general, I eat a lot of fruit, especially now being pregnant, I eat twice as much. So it's so much fruit that I don't want to combine it with nuts at the same meal. Then at dinner, you can have some nuts added to your dressings or to your salads or however you want to prepare it. And it will be okay as long as you keep your percentages over the day somewhat in a range of anywhere from 5 to 20% of fat, depending on what works for you. You will feel okay with fruit. Other combinations, coconut yogurt and nuts. Well, that's fat and fat with a little bit of sugar probably in the coconut yogurt. I generally would sweeten it with stevia because I don't like added sugar. I like my sugar in whole fruit form. That's okay. You're still better off. You can have a little bit of yogurt and stuff. It can be a big meal, obviously. That's okay. Oatmeal with fruit, same thing. If it's just a little bit of fruit with oatmeal, you're fine. But if you eat a ton of fruit and then oatmeal, you have digestive disturbances because it's a starch with fruit. They don't combine well in a big meal. So basically the whole, to your question, in a big meal, don't combine too many complicated things. If you're grabbing a small bite, you'll be okay. It's fine. It's if you're looking for the most beneficial combination that's most easily digestible, it will strengthen your system, and it won't lead to any bloating and such. Focus on your plain fruit meal for breakfast. You can do a fruit meal for lunch too. That's if you live in a kind of warmish climate. Otherwise, feel free to do a little something cooked for lunch and something cooked for dinner. But always include a lot of raw foods, and a lot of, even if you have a cooked dinner, always have a bunch of raw vegetables with it. It will help your digestion. Another question that I don't see it here, but people feel bloated from vegetables. That is a transitional stage, I believe. If you cleanse your, if you're, I'll quickly try to cover a transitional stage. Once you shift your diet from one diet to another, you are going, especially if you're gonna go from a standard American or just a typical American diet, you go into a vegan diet that is very high in fiber. The fiber will bother you at first because your body is not used to that. Also, your bacterial flora is not used to that level of to that type of nutrients. Your bacterial flora is expecting the same foods you have been giving your body, and that's what it is equipped to deal with. At first, it's good to keep your combinations very simple. Don't overcomplicate meals. Keep them very simple, mostly based on one thing with little bites of other things. But don't think that you need to combine lentils with rice, with this, with that, with 5 things so that you get everything you need. Just get that variety over the week. But keep things simple at first so that your body can adjust. If you can go on a little fruit detox, that is also very good, because your body will release a lot of toxins and will have time to heal while you are just eating light, basically. Now, someone asked, what is, let's see if I can find that question. What should we do when we turn to food? I didn't find that question, but I will answer a different question. Georgia, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I know it's a Greek pronunciation, so probably I'm wrong. What should we do when we turn to food, when we feel down? How do we deal with cravings? Now, cravings happen. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. They happen. Whenever we're emotional, we're all emotional beings. The best thing is when you are having an emotional or a down day and you want to turn to food, at least to have the habit to turn to kind of like good food. I myself can have a stressful day and I can turn to food, but usually if I turn to something that is not something I was planning to have, say some nutritious salad or something, I would still turn to, say, bananas, bowls of bananas with PB powder. I'll try to include the PB powder I'm using. I'm using the organic one. It's organic peanut butter powder, which is a little lower fat, just for the peanut butter flavor, with a little bit of coconut sugar and a little bit of sea salt. So it's very peanutty, very... It's good, and it's the organic one. I don't get the PB2 because it's not organic, and I'm suspicious of the peanuts. They could probably have aflatoxin and other things. So it is a junk food, in my opinion. The powder, in small quantities, it's okay, but it's kind of satisfying, and it's also just, it's actually high in protein, low in fat, and overall I kind of find it to be a good junk food for here and there for little cravings. So how do we do it? Cravings, just eat good food. And now I don't think I get cravings. I can get cravings if you eat a very whole food plant-based diet. You will probably not get cravings. if you vary your diet and you just eat in abundance, you won't get cravings. But you still can have emotional days. I don't believe how some of the vegan community says that there is no such thing as emotional eating. I don't believe in that. We're all emotional beings, and there is emotional eating for sure. So just eat something healthy. Make your healthy food taste like junk food. For me, that I have my things that I consider to be extremely like a treat. Just as I mentioned, the apple sweet mulberry date dip, things like this. If I have a kind of like a bingey day because I'm so emotional and I eat a little more high carb and I don't make it like nuts or half nuts, half carbs, I feel light, and I don't feel like I have to pay for it. I do have my days too, as anybody else. I can not have an emotional or cravings for 5 months, but then eventually it will happen. I know that. So just have a thing to fall back on. Even falling back on cereal tends to be okay. Now, if you another aspect to this is sometimes cravings are because you're under eating. Make sure that you eat good, and kind of everybody has a happy place of how many calories you need and what ratios of fats to carbs and so forth. Everybody has their happy place. I do think your happy place is very much determined by your age, activity, personal taste buds, taste preferences, and the climate in which you live in. Generally, in a very hot climate, very low fat diets are very appropriate. In colder climates, you do need a little more fat, but still not as much as the standard recommendation. Still, it's probably 15% of the calories from fat. But find your happy place, and if you feed your body abundantly, you're not gonna have cravings. You may have emotional eating here and there, but you will not have cravings. We still are subject to stress, and I get that. And be forgiving to your body. Happens to all of us, even the best eaters. Some people are very strict and very perfect about eating, and some people are not. I think not being perfect and not being dogmatic, it's a much more relaxed and better approach. Could you briefly describe some foods you rely on, tricks you use when traveling in places not friendly to your diet? I have been lucky. When I travel, well, there is a few tricks. When I travel, if I know that I'm not gonna eat well, or I'm not gonna eat veggies and greens in enough quantity, I've been trying to bring with me barley grass powder, so that kind of covers me. Normally I don't take it at home because I eat so many grains, but when I travel I bring it with me because it's so easy to take. Just a spoon in water or a few spoons through the day. Normally I would buy a lot of bananas if I travel places where there isn't much or I can't figure it out. I stay flexible. I would eat bread, or at the restaurant I would eat a salad, and I don't feel like it affects my energy. Salad with oil and all of that. I don't feel like it affects my energy because I've come to a place where I feel pretty steady. It took me a while to get here, especially after my healing. When I was healing, I definitely needed to eat in a particular way, or I would feel joint pain, inflammation, energy shifting, blood sugar issues and other issues. Now I don't feel that how I eat affects me if I break it up a little bit here and there. I try to be kind of easygoing when I travel. If I'm visiting a family and they're eating a particular vegan meal, I'll just maybe participate, depends if it's something I like. If it's just pasta and like bready things, I'll probably just try to bring sweet potatoes with me, bring a lot of bananas with me. Also, I'm okay with skipping meals. If there is nothing I can eat and I know I can get something better later, like whether it is bread, rice, bananas, grapes would be my perfect choice. I'll just get that and skip a meal. I've always done a form of intermittent fasting, so skipping meals generally gives me energy, because basically you let your digestive system rest for a little bit, and that resting makes your brain a little more active and your energy is more active, and it doesn't affect me, but that is because I'm very used to it. If you don't know if you're gonna be able to get food, where you're gonna go, I kind of live in places where it's always something there for me. But if you're gonna be taken to a steakhouse with nothing on the menu, bring dates always with you, even vegan bars, things like this that at least are gonna give you some sustenance. Dates and bananas are easy. Dates are dry, so you can just pack them in your purse and have quite a few of them. And if you can order something from the menu, or if you can find stands in town where you can buy ripe bananas and such, that's my go-to. To me, bananas are my go-to. I eat a lot of bananas when I travel. And I think that's it. You can always find probably sourdough. You can always find steamed rice, things like this. Sourdough is easy also. All right, I will mispronounce this. Her name, sorry, Raika. Why are you high carb, and what led you to determine that was healthy for you? Now, I will just share with you my belief about humans without going too much into detail about it. But I do believe that we all are we are high carb. We are meant to eat a high carb diet. It wasn't until recently that the high protein, low carb became popular. So that's kind of a trend. Us thinking that we need to eat the paleo. First of all, there is no strong evidence that the Paleolithic men ate meat. It was actually hard to hunt it down. Actually, there is quite a bit of research, and the opposite is showing the opposite is true, that we actually ate a lot of high carb foods in ancient times. Now, if you compare a human to a cat, it's quite obvious that we're not meat eaters. It's so obvious that we don't have the sharp razor teeth. We have a long intestinal tract. We don't eat raw meat. We don't find raw meat pleasing to our taste buds. We don't salivate when we see a bunny rabbit or a deer. We don't have the tools to kill an animal, basically. We have developed some tools, and I think those were very important because we never had enough access to food. Evolutionary, we did not have enough access to food, so meat was important in that way. It allowed us to survive, because it's better to eat meat than to starve and die. But overall, and even nowadays, when I travel through very poor places in Bulgaria, in the mountains, there is just a population of old people there living really poorly on probably $80 a month, which just barely covers their heat, and not even medication. So these people, they don't have an access to a store that's packed with kale and hemp seeds and chia seeds year round, and asparagus and artichoke. These people have probably a couple of dollars a day to spend on bread, a little bit of cheese, and maybe lentils and some meat. And also they have a goat or a sheep or a few sheep, and they get milk from it. And that is not an optimal human diet, but they are surviving pretty well on it, because it is a better diet than starvation. They definitely don't have a blender and kale smoothies. So I think evolutionary, we've adapted to eat meat for survival purposes. It's not optimal, but has allowed us to survive. We do very well on, and now we are tropical beings, most likely, because we can survive anywhere without clothes besides on the tropics. So that is our natural environment. The tropics are full of good fruit. When you look at fruit, you get excited. Most people at least get excited. It's easy for us to harvest. It's easy to eat. How I determined that high carb is great for me, I got the idea that we're supposed to eat fruit and plants very early on. I caught on to the idea probably when I was 16. I personally came to this for two reasons. Not because I think animals are fuzzy and nice and pretty and I don't want to kill them, but because I have a very strong, my mind is strong, and it's also very, I have a very rational side to my mind and a very spiritual. They're both extreme ends of, not extreme, but I'm extremely rational, extremely logical. I did very well in physics and math. And I'm also extremely intuitive, extremely spiritual. I can sense things that are not easily visible for a lot of people, let's say that. So I personally had such a strong moral realization that I don't personally have the right to kill another being for my own sustenance if I have the choice for other food. Now, like, given that you're dying, and would you eat an animal? No one is hardly ever put that has a computer and internet and modern amenities. No one's ever put in a situation where they have to make that choice. We all have enough choices nowadays to make a more sustainable choice, and I personally don't feel that it is my right to cause harm and suffering to another being. So from there on, meat was out of the question. Now milk is becoming the same thing, because I personally don't feel that I have the right to be the cause for the enslavement and torture of another animal and rape, because they're artificially inseminated, which is a rape, and also sheep and cows mostly. They're kept in confinements. Their life is a life of slavery. So I don't feel like personally participating in that. So milk is out of the question as well, which led to the biggest health boost in my life. Milk was the only thing I cared for from the animal world, animal foods, and me giving up milk absolutely changed how I feel completely. I healed all the issues that I had from my childhood. I healed them pretty quickly, probably within a year of giving up milk. It was phenomenal. Eggs is the same thing. I think eggs is a personal choice. If some people choose to eat eggs, they're obviously, if you have hens running in your backyard, they're not being tortured. I don't feel that we need eggs because they're really high in cholesterol. Actually, I just read that one egg has the cholesterol of 16 tablespoons of lard. I personally don't, I know that they're extremely unhealthy for me because they're part of the reproductive cycle of another animal, so they do affect us hormonally. We don't need the saturated fats, and as long as we can get omega-3s and other nutrients from our plant foods, there is no need for them. But if someone has running hens in their backyard and they're getting their eggs, that's probably the least controversial as far as cruelty goes. When we're buying eggs or animal products, we are generally participating in some form of causing someone else suffering. I don't feel that is, As humanity rises in consciousness, it's becoming less and less a possibility for humanity to participate in such outrageous practices of enslaving someone from their birth to their throughout their entire short life and into their death. Now, how did I determine within veganism that high carb is? Because it feels amazing. Just try it. I don't know how else to say it. I have tried high fat because I was high carb for a long time. Then in 2007, I think, the whole raw gourmet movement started, and I just fell for it. So I tried high fat, and I did not feel very good during it. It leads to more cramps, more problems with your period, fluctuation with your weight, just generally not feeling as energetic and light as and satiated as high carb. Protein, we don't need that much protein. Excess of we can only digest a certain amount of amino acids. Any excess of protein will, in general, make your system, have long-term issues with acidity, kidney issues, and from there, once the kidneys go, everything goes. Kidneys are one of the pillars of our health. So I feel that most people that are on a bodybuilding style diet, they probably do look good for 10 to 20 years, but they all have to pay a high price for it later on, with a lot of joint issues, a lot of kidney issues, and so forth. And kidneys lead to a lot of things. From the kidneys, if the kidneys go, then the heart goes, so it's cardiovascular issues. From there, kidneys rule in Chinese medicine your knees and joints and reproductive system. They're considered the inner testicles in Chinese medicine. So weak kidneys lead to infertility and so forth. So high protein is no question. High fat, we're not meant to run on fat. We can run, but it's not optimal fuel for us. Try both and you will see. It takes a while. High fat diet generally lead to a lot of blood sugar issues. High fat is better than high protein, I will tell you that much. High protein is probably the worst diet out there. High fat with very low carbs, although it's not very easily maintainable, it's not as bad as high protein diets. But when you eat a high fat diet, you generally don't have a lot of energy. It's just you don't feel light. Your brain kind of functions on a different level. And depending on the fats, it can be, even if it's vegan fats, it will be a challenge for your cardiovascular health. So, and fats usually from nuts, and if you're in a high fat diet, you're just not gonna get enough nutrients because nuts are not that rich in everything else. And I guess if you're combining nuts and veggies, it's just no comparison how you will feel compared to high carb with an optimal addition of proteins and fats. Let's do one more question, and I will leave the other questions for the next video. Oh, I love this one. Crystal, what do you think about gluten? I love seitan. I hear all different opinions. That's a very good question. I think that people did really well on bread throughout history because we used to prepare bread in the proper way, and we used to grow wheat varieties that were lower in gluten. Recently, in recent years, people have started to hybridize wheat and grow wheat that is, I think 10, if I'm wrong, you can correct me down in the comments, 10 times higher in gluten than the heirloom varieties. And then we don't prepare it in a sourdough way where everything gets converted so that it's digestible properly. So I think we've just bombarded our bodies with so much gluten from hybridized wheat that everybody has developed sensitivity to it. I personally have zero reaction to gluten, but I think it is because I don't eat it at all. Here and there as a treat. If you like the vegan gluten meat substitutes like seitan, or the sausages from field roast. They're very good, and I think they're okay, good treat, but don't eat them every day because they do slow your digestion down. They don't make you feel as good. So as a treat is fine. It doesn't bother me. As I said, little diversion from my diet never bothers me anymore. I can have fun, go out, try new things, and just feel great the next day, go back to my fruit. Because I've spent a long time healing my digestion. But just don't eat it every day. Do not eat gluten every day because it is a processed food. Always go to your whole plant foods. And that will make you feel the best. And as long as you are not having any health issues and your energy is fine, you can have a little gluten here and there or seitan here and there. Now, there's other options for vegan meat substitutes, like, well, I don't know if it's a substitute, but you can make, I know you're a good cook, so you can make good bean patties and lentil patties and stuff like this, and just vary those things so it's not always gluten. I do think that if you eat gluten every day, it will affect your digestion and how you feel. It's kind of sticky and gluey, so you don't want that every day into your body. Okay, one more question. My biggest, let's see, my biggest problem when cooking veggies using recipes I find online is oils. Maybe you could talk about how you limit substitute oils and fats when cooking without sacrificing flavor. Gracias. As I mentioned earlier, everything is a learned taste bud habit, attachment. So if you're very used to, I noticed that with other people, if you're used to fried foods, nothing will satisfy you but fried foods until you kind of go through a forced detox. I noticed for myself that if I travel and need a lot of nuts and like things that are very dense, when I come home, I don't find my typical foods that I usually find to be the best tasting thing on the planet. I don't find them good tasting for a couple of days, but then I go back to it. Like I don't get excited for broccoli after eating a lot of dense foods. So you have to kind of shift your understanding of, shift your habits of what is tastes good. Try not to get attached to heavy in oil foods, because over time it's best if you detox from them and you start finding flavor in lighter meals. How do I prepare? I think a little bit of oil in the beginning, just a tiny bit with nut milk, and cooking this with a lot of flavor and and putting a lot of hot sauce at the end it's my way to do it. I don't use any oil actually, but you know, if you're transitioning, you can just reduce your oil and just do a little spray. I recently got a spray of truffle oil. It's very cheesy. It's almost like a cheesy, oily spray, and you just do one spray and the whole thing smells very cheesy. That's a nice substitute. You can use nutritional yeast to flavor things, or dips. My thing is dips. I just steam everything, or I cook things in almond coconut milk, and then I make a dip. And the dip is, I like spices and I like hot spices. So that thing gives me a lot of flavor. And sometimes I just like to eat things just the way they are. I think periodically going to bland foods will reset your taste buds, and then you can truly experience foods. And also you can rely on your cravings then, because your cravings are true. If you're eating bland foods and you're craving broccoli, your body for sure wants broccoli, needs broccoli. So it's good to kind of do a taste bud detox and digestive system detox, and after that you're not gonna want to overstimulate your taste buds, because everything will taste amazing. As I mentioned earlier in this video, I feel that I get more satisfaction from my simple meals than people get from consistent, very, very rich, fatty and exciting meals. I'll keep answering questions, because there was amazing, interesting questions, but for now let's keep it at that. Let me know what you think about the subjects we covered today, and if I should go deeper into any of them, or if you want me to go kind of like speed answering at a speed answering level, or if you prefer me to talk real slow and go into things in detail, let me know. And thanks for watching. Namaste.